Hello and welcome to this episode of the Blog Chronicles. I am your host, Matthew Loomis. This show is sponsored by BuildYourOwnBlog.net, the full-service destination for people who want to start their own WordPress blog and achieve long-term success. Visit BuildYourOwnBlog.net to start your new blog today. My guest today was a fifth-generation coal miner in the state of Virginia who had a steady job working down in the mines and figured at that point he would be a coal miner for the rest of his life. He did that for 10 years. But one day a terrible, unforeseen accident happened as he was working down in the mines that changed his life forever. He was thrown into the internet and turned to it in desperation as a means of survival financially for him and his family. My guest has never told this personal portion of his story before and will do so now for the first time here on the Blog Chronicles. So let's now get our chronicle on with Wade Harman, the coal miner's blogger. Hi, Wade. Welcome back to the Blog Chronicles.
Hey, Matthew. So nice of you to ask me to come back again. I really had fun the last time. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, this one should be a lot of fun, too. Now, Wade, you were my guest on episode 7, and that's when we talked about social media psychology. And we briefly spoke about your personal background on that episode, but I didn't go into it that much, really because of time. And so I made a note to have you back on so we could dive into your personal story, because I think it will be inspiring for many bloggers out there. You know, no matter what their experience level is, I think they're going to enjoy hearing your story. So I'd like to dive right in. Are you ready?
I believe so.
All right. Great. Well, Wade, first of all, tell us how long you've been blogging.
I've been blogging roughly 5 years. I tell people 5 years. I'm right at the tail end of the fourth year. So the new year will start the fifth year. But I started blogging 5 years ago, and I didn't really have any idea what I was doing. And I know we're going to get into that later, but when I started, I really had no clue about content writing, about SEO, about building relationships, even social media. I had never even heard of Google Plus. It had been around a little while, and so there was a lot of new things that I jumped into when I started blogging 5 years ago, and it was a very interesting journey. So yeah, I've been blogging for 5 years now.
Tell us about your very first blog.
Oh man. Okay. So when I got started in this industry, I didn't have any clue what I was doing. I knew I wanted to blog, and I knew I wanted to make money doing it. And so, I knew I needed a URL, and a domain name. And so I really didn't know how to get that. But once I figured all that, and I cut through the weeds of how to do all this and set up WordPress and things like that, I knew, like I said, I knew I wanted to blog, and I knew I wanted to make money. So I just shoved those words together, and I put a .com behind it. And my first blog was bloggersmakemoney.com. And
interesting.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting. And so looking back now, I can laugh at it. It was very, you could see that I didn't know what I was doing. But I began to write on that blog because I was looking at different people's blogs. One good blog that I always went to was basicblogtips.com, Eileen Smith. I really looked up to her. Mm-hmm. And watching what she was doing. And she was very friendly and courteous to me and always nice and helpful. And so I began to understand, hey, I need content on this thing. So what am I going to write about? And back then, 350 words, getting 350 words out of me was like pulling teeth. And so I began to write. I began to struggle and write. And it got easier. The first 5 I did was a train wreck. It was just, I don't even remember what I wrote about. All I remember was how painful those 5 articles were. But after I I began to congregate on social media and rub shoulders with people like you and people like Eileen. And I didn't meet, the more popular people until later, but I did meet some good, helpful bloggers that kind of showed me. I would go to their sites and read their blogs, and my blog started to develop a little. You could see the growth in my blog, and I began to write more in-depth articles, and I just kind of just figured it out as I went along. And so bloggersmakemoney.com was actually my very first WordPress blog that actually started to make a little money about the 8th month in. I made $62, I believe.
Okay, your first month?
Yeah, well, 8 months later, after I started.
Oh, okay.
It took me 8 months to make $62. And once I figured out what was going on and what the people wanted, I began to latch on to that concept. And so I began to be an affiliate marketer. I slipped into the affiliate marketing niche and selling product that I recommended and products that I used. And one product that I really liked, and I don't even think it's on the market anymore, but it was TweetAdder, and it helped with Twitter and things like that. I made a good amount of money selling that product, and eventually, I think I had that blog for 2 years, maybe, and someone
2 years?
came. Yeah,
Okay.
2 years, I believe it was, and someone came along. I think it was a competitor came along and offered to buy the blog from me, and he just wanted to pull it off the market. I've checked because bloggersmakemoney.com isn't out there anymore, not to my knowledge, and
Okay.
I made some money off that blog and sold it and started my second blog, which is what I have now, is Harman.com. So yeah, it was pretty interesting.
Yeah. So, Wade, what kept you going those first 2 years? Like, it took you 8 months to see $62, but it sounds like you could sense that you were growing. But what kept you motivated?
I think it was, well, I know it was. When you love doing something, it's not work. And as I developed as a writer and as a blogger, I began to have a love for this industry and this type of business. I began to love social media. I began to love writing for my audience, begin to build relationships with my audience, and start to find out what they needed. And I began to figure it out, on my own, that I needed to produce something valuable to these people who were looking up to me, people who were, telling me, hey, I'm putting my trust in you. So I began to take that and just cultivate a content marketing strategy around that. And what kept me going was the fact that I did need, well, I can't say that I made a lot of money the first couple of months, but that wasn't what kept me going, but the love of doing it. Because when you love what you're doing, it's not work. And it was more like I had a hobby at the beginning than I had a job.
Mm-hmm.
And the love for that just kept me going, because I definitely didn't make a ton of money the first year. It wasn't until probably, I don't know, 14 months into it that I started making pretty decent with it. And so when you can piggyback something and stay with it for that long and not be paid for it, it's got to be love, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So here you are today, a little over 4 years later. What have you been blogging lately?
Mostly social media psychology.
Mm-hmm.
Basically how to induce psychological triggers
Right.
using social media. I've been helping people find out trigger words for their audience, emotional triggers for their audience, what kind of content works for their audience. Just basically what I'm doing is helping my audience. It's the same thing that I was doing back then with the old blog.
Okay.
It's just on a deeper scale, I'd like to think it's on a deeper scale than what I was. Except, I'm not writing about tweet adder now. I'm I'm building value, and so that's what I basically try to do. And I feel like the name of the game is to build value, and your listeners already know that. That's why they're listening. They already know you have to create great content, and that's what I was doing. Because when you create great content, you create great trust, and when trust happens, sooner or later there's going to come a day when your audience will need something from you that they won't be able to get themselves, and then they'll come back to you and they'll say, hey, can you help me with this? And how much would you charge for this, for helping me? And that's where I'm at right now, more of like a consultant type blogger.
Yeah, Wade, speaking of great content, you've got a podcast out now. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, that is the Social Brain Podcast. And I've actually put that on hold, but it is still out there, and you can check that out. I believe I have about 10 or 11 episodes on there. But it talks about emotional triggers, how to use social media and psychology coupled together to build traffic and convert your audience. And it's a lot of cool stuff. It's very fun to do, but I'm planning on picking that up again.
Yeah, it looked good. I was looking at it here before the show, and I thought I saw maybe 18 episodes, but yeah, they looked really good.
Yeah, it was very fun.
Great. I hope you get back to that, because you are one of my favorite sources of information when it comes to social media psychology.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you got started, so what led you to turning to this internet lifestyle, or even considering an internet lifestyle? Because it's my understanding you didn't come from a technical background, or you weren't a web developer or designer or writer or anything like that. So how did you end up turning to the internet as your source, as a business source?
Yeah, well, that's a story that I've never told the whole story before, and your audience is gonna hear it first. But
cool.
I didn't really, let me say this right. I was thrown into the internet industry. I used to work in a coal mines, and as you said, I didn't have any technical or writing background. I was more or less, I was an electrician in a coal mines at, you guys can Google this, at Consol Energy at Buckhannon 1 mine. And that's a little mine. It's about, 20 minutes away from here. I live up in the mountains, and most of the coal in the country comes from this area. And so that's what I did. That's what my dad did. That's what his dad did, and his dad did. So I come from a long line of coal miners. It was a vicious cycle when I come out of school. I tried to do something else, but it just called to me. It's in my blood. And so I went and worked at the coal mines, and there was basically I worked 10 years in the mines, and eventually done the normal social things that one would do as they grow up. I got married, had kids, and living life really good. Was making good money. I think back then I was making $26 an hour, something like that, 28, something like that, and doing pretty good, and getting to work a lot. And all of a sudden, one day, my whole career just got crushed. We were moving power underground, and I was in the middle of these miner cables. And for those of you that don't know, a miner is a big machine. It's about 16 tons that has a head on it, and on that head there are teeth, and those teeth cut into the coal wall, and they pull the coal out of the mountain. And so we were moving the cables for that thing, because everything, it's all electric. and we were moving the cables, and I was in the middle of the cables, and one of the guys was on the scoop, which is like this little short forklift. It's the best way I can explain it. And he was pulling the minor cable. Well, it got stuck. So I jumped into the middle of the minor cable to try to untwist. And if you're thinking about it, a long extension cord, you're halfway right, because that's what it is. It's just an extension cord. But you need to think of an extension cord about as big as a wrestler's arm. It's real thick and very heavy. And so I jumped in the middle of that and was trying to untwist. And of course, when you're in the coal mines, you have your headlamp. And when you are a far distance from somebody else, it's so loud under there, you can't yell out to them and say, "Okay, I'm ready." You have to shake your head at them, to shake your light. And the light moving up and down says, "Yes, I'm ready. Go ahead." And so I was jerking and tugging on that thing. And I guess my headlamp was going up and down. And so the guy took off with the minor cable and me in it. And it just twisted my leg, twisted my knee, just popped it completely out. And so there I was laying on the coal mines on my back, looking up at the ceiling. And I was watching the little specks of coal dust float through the air and wondering, what am I going to do now? I don't have anything. I don't really have anything to fall back on. What in the world am I going to do? I got a family. I got 2 kids. Got a wife. Got people that are dependent on me to bring in, money for food and things. And so there I lay. I knew I wasn't going back in. It was just one of those things. You felt it. And they pulled me out, took me to the hospital, did all the necessary things. And of course, sure enough, not going back in the coal mines. And so here I am, laid up on the couch with my leg up and no money coming in. And I knew you could make money online. Back then, there was this social media site called Bebo. I don't know if you remember Bebo.com. Remember that site? It was kind of like Facebook.
Yeah, that's right. I do remember Bebo.
Yeah, that was a long time ago. And so my wife had a Bebo account. And one day I was scrolling through that thing and I looked and there was this little ad and it said make $5,000 in a month just doing online work. It's something like, I can't remember the exact ad, but it was tempting me to click on the ad to get rich. And I saw a lot of those ads and I knew you could make money because these guys were doing it. Surely to goodness they were $4,799 for packages and things like that. And so I began to research this stuff out. And I said, okay, this is what I need to do. And in between me looking at this first ad and bloggersmakemoney.com, in that period of time, in that little haze of time between when I actually figured it out and when I was trying to figure it out, I spent so much money on squeeze pages. I mean, I had this hope and this belief that I could click on this guy's product and it would make me money. I just, I don't know if you've ever been that desperate. I was so desperate to earn money that I would click. I spent $47 here. I would go into the back end of their site, and guess what? It was a PDF file showing me I had to have 1 million social media followers, or I had to have this, or I had to have that. And so I started saying, well, I don't have this, so how do I get this? And so I started building this thing up. Get a Facebook page. Okay, I need that. And or get a YouTube channel. Okay, I need to go get that. And so every dollar I spent was a learning experience for me because I didn't know anything about this. I had no idea how to make money online. And finally, I got it together, and that's where Bloggers Make Money came in. And the squeeze pages, while I did spend a lot of money on those squeeze pages, And, you know, I kind of do a face palm every time I think about that. But,
Mm.
you know, when I do think about it, it was a learning experience. I didn't have the money to spend, you know, $5,000 for somebody to teach me how to do this, but I could afford 47 to make a mistake and learn. And so that's what I did. And so I began Bloggers Make Money and started to write the content. And that in itself was, um, you know, I made mistakes and I had failures and it was a big learning curve for that too. And so I had to start all over again. So in all reality, between when I first saw the ad and when I first bought bloggersmakemoney.com,
Mm-hmm.
all those mistakes before bloggers were, were, were null and void, because when I got to Bloggers Make Money, that was my starting point. That was how much I didn't know about this industry. I made so many mistakes just to get started, just to learn it. And then from my launching point, from Bloggers Make Money, then I started at square one. And then I started to make, you know, the regular mistakes and failures that you see people write about, the generic stuff. And it was a learning curve. And you know what? Maybe there's somebody in your audience that doesn't have the background, doesn't have the experience. Maybe they're not the best writer or, you know, the best SEO expert. But if you have a desire to do something and you keep pushing at it, you will do it. You will do that desire. And what whatever you think in your mind, you are. And I really believe that. And that's one of the things that I have always felt in my life. They told me I would never be an electrician in the coal mines. It was almost a $10 an hour pay jump. And I got it in my head, you know what, I'm going to do that. I went and took my mining classes, got my electrician's papers, took the test, failed it a couple of times and went back and retook it, finally passed, and then I got the job. I had a determination that I was going to get that electrician's degree. And so if you have a determination inside of your heart that you're going to be successful at this, if this is something that you love to do, nobody can pry it away from your cold, dead hands once that day comes, then you will succeed. Maybe not today, maybe not next year, but the path to success is filled with potholes and failures and learning experiences and twists and turns. Believe me, if anybody knows, it's me, because there have been so many things that I've learned. And when I get a chance to tell people about my mistakes, I do, because this business, there's so many people don't make it, and so many people give up so quickly. They go 3 months and then they get discouraged and they say, I'm not making any money. I got to do something else. You can't stop in 3 months, because you have to understand that a targeted audience, a blog, trust, none of that stuff happens in a short amount of time. And so that was my little sermon for the day. So don't give up.
That is such good stuff, Wade. Do you see your injury as a blessing now?
Yeah, I do. A lot of my friends that were in the coal mines back then are, two of them have black lung. My grandpa actually died from black lung, and they, you know, they hurt all over. It's, you know, working in the coal mines is backbreaking work. It's rough work. It's comparable to being a pro football player. There's so many injuries and tears and so much clutter that happens to your body on a physical level that when I got home, I would just, before I got hurt, I would just sit on the couch and I would have my dinner. My wife would have my dinner ready, and I would sit on the couch and I would watch TV and I would eat my dinner and fall asleep and spill the plate. and I didn't have a life, man. My kids were growing up and I wasn't getting to see them.
Yeah.
And I was sleeping when I was home and working when I was there, at work. And so now, yeah, most definitely it was a blessing. I didn't see it as a blessing at the time because all I saw was my bank account going bye bye. But now
Hmm.
it's like, one of my kids' cousins told me actually yesterday. He looked at me. He's only like uh, 11 years old. He looked at me. He said, "You get to work anytime you want." And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "I wish my dad could do that. He could play with me anytime he wanted to." And his dad's a coal miner. Uh,
Wow.
and so it's not only did it help me, and my career, but it helped my family. It's just this job is, it's more than just a job. It's a
Yeah.
blessing. It really is.
Yeah. So aside from the better quality time and more quality time with your family, what else do you like about the work from home lifestyle?
Well, I like the fact that I can set my own hours. I can set my own, price rate. Um, if I don't want to work with a company, I don't have to. I'm my own boss. Just like you're your own boss. Your audience, they boss themselves, and that's one of the things that I like. It's the leisure of making my own choices and making my own decisions about work. Now, most of the time, because I love this job so much, I don't hardly ever turn anybody down. But I
Hmm.
don't go over work time either. When 6 o'clock comes, I'm off,
Hmm.
and that's family time. And work will still be there in the morning, and that's the way I look at it.
Yeah, and I'm sure it's not all necessarily unicorns and rainbows as far as the whole work from home internet lifestyle. Is there anything that you don't like about working from home?
Yeah, sure. I mean, sometimes it's the not knowing. You know,
Hmm.
when I first started, there was a lot of guesswork involved.
Hmm.
Am I doing this the right way? Why aren't people coming to me? Why am I not making the money that I need to be making? And those are legitimate questions that I think, everybody has in this business. What could I do better?
Hmm.
And so, you know, the nagging feeling of, maybe why am I not making the money I need to make? When I first started, that was always there. But the feeling of what can I do to make this better? Um, how can I adapt to my audience, my target audience? Those things you have to understand. You have to understand what is a fear and what is a um, something that really gets you motivated. You know, and it's not all fear. It's you have to dissect the fear from the motivation and learn how to control your own thought processes during this time and say, okay, worrying about money is a fear. That affects my business and my job and my writing and the way I talk to clients and customers. It makes me look desperate. I'm not going to think about fear from 7 a.m. until 6 p.m. Now at 6:01 p.m. I'm going to worry about it. But during the time that I'm working, I'm not going to be fearful. I'm not going to worry about it. But after that, I can. But how can I make myself better? What can I do? That's motivation. It's not the fear. It's the motivation. You have to learn how to decipher between the two, and then go to people's sites. Go to go to social sites that will help you on social media. Go visit moz.com and learn how to do SEO. Um, go read, learn what people are doing. If you're not doing it, why aren't you doing it? Is it because you're just different, or is it because you haven't heard of that before? Sometimes there is there's a difference between you paving the way and you following somebody. But there's some things that you need to do, and you need to follow in the steps of people to get to that certain point to where you can break off from the pack and be your own thing. In other words, what I mean, for example, um, everybody needs to engage on social media. You can't be different if you don't engage. And so engagement means communication and conversation with your followers. You can't ignore these people. And just because everybody's doing it that's in this business and you're wanting to be different doesn't mean that you need to stop doing that. You know what I mean? It's just there's things that you have to do that, it's requirement. But yeah, that's the way I look at it anyway.
Excellent. So looking back, Wade, to where you are today, how has blogging changed your life?
Oh, it's just gave me freedom. There's so much freedom. Um, it's allowed it's allowed me to open up creative areas in my brain that were being suppressed so many years.
Hmm.
I mean, I've always had a love for writing, but I have never been able to act upon it until, I came into the blogging world. And, there's going to be things that will suppress you, suppress your mood, suppress your business. You have to understand how to rise above that stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
that's one of the things that I try to think about. It's I love the creativity of this position. It's not I can use what's in my head to help brands all across the country. They've never thought of this before. I had one person say, well, let me see if I can find it. Let me look, if you don't mind.
Sure.
This one lady, she told me, she said, I love your writing style. It feels like you're talking directly to me. It's so easy to follow, even on topics people know nothing about.
Mm-hmm.
And it's that's the creativity that I personally have. What is your creativity button? Your readers, your listeners, can go home, take a pen and paper, and write down 5 things that you can give to your audience through your creativity, and follow those 5 things. What do they need? What do they want? Tailor it around those people, and then figure out how you can give it to them in a creative way. Because it's all,
Yeah.
it's all psychological. I don't mean to fall back on the psychology thing again, but it's all psychological. And once you learn those trigger patterns of your audience and learn how to use your personal creativity in a way that they say, well, hey, they perk up and take notice and say, hey, this person is awesome. I didn't
Yeah.
know that I could think about something in that way. Let me follow them. That's the way you get attention in this industry.
Yeah, and Wade and I would love to hear your 5 creative things that you have to offer. If you want to share those in the blog comments or on YouTube or on social media, we'd love to hear those 5 creative things that you have to offer. Wade, do you have anything new that you want to share that's going on right now?
Oh yeah, something very exciting is happening. I have been really opening the doors to my creative mind and allowing a lot of individual bloggers to come on board with me. I have a freelance writing company that I've started, and a lot of people don't have time to write content or
Mm-hmm.
create content of any kind, and I understand there's a lot of things happening in your business. You've got to stay on social media. You've got to build relationships. Got to get to know your audience. And then you forget, sometimes the writing falls through the cracks. And so I'm offering freelance writing services over at my blog. You can go to wadeharman.com, and you can click the About button up there in the top and contact me if you would like to hire me for your writing services.
That's great. It sounds exciting. Congratulations. You just told me right before we got started the show that you were opening up this new business, and I think that sounds really great.
Yeah, it's been fun so far. So far, people have really been very receptive to it, and we're looking forward to seeing where it goes.
Fantastic. And Wade, where can people follow you online?
They can follow me on Twitter at Wade Harman, Facebook, um, YouTube, Pinterest. Pinterest, I'm Blogger 32. that was another thing I did way back in the day. I never did change the name. So, also let me give a discount to your listeners.
Okay.
If you listen to this podcast and you hear this, I want to give you a 25% discount on your first month of writing services just because you listened to this podcast. So hopefully that will help your listeners out a little bit.
Fantastic. If you're a small business owner that wants to generate traffic through your blog and you don't have time to create all the content, give Wade Harman a look and see what he can offer you.
That's right. Thank you.
Yeah, so the Coal Miners Blogger, that's the title for this. I was gonna ask you if your dad was a coal miner, and as soon as you said he was, that made it official. The Coal Miners Blogger.
Yeah, I mean, who would have thought? I've never got a picture of myself in the coal mines. That would have been so awesome to show. But I think there's one, maybe. I think I do have one. Mm-hmm. So I guess I can back up and say I do. But yeah, it's a huge leap from the coal mines to the blogging industry. And if I could say in closing, it doesn't matter who you are or what type of niche or industry that you're in. You can do this if you have the fortitude and the motivation and the determination to do it. If I can do this, you can definitely do it. And so just keep your head up or keep your head down. However this saying is, and keep on trucking. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man, I love it. I really appreciate you coming on the Blog Chronicles today and sharing your personal story with us. This has been really, really inspiring.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Blog Chronicles. If you enjoy the show, please subscribe on YouTube or iTunes and leave a rating or review to help other bloggers find us. If you want to chat, look me up on Twitter @MattLoomis. So who is going to be my next guest on the Blog Chronicles? My next guest runs 2 monetized blogs with his eyes closed. Literally. Because he's blind and has been since the age of 12. Yet he uses the internet, develops relationships online, and makes his living through his blogs. He was recently selected to take part in the Amtrak Writers in Residency program. And in the next episode, we will learn how a legally blind person can find success as a blogger. So if you don't want your excuses taken away, don't listen to the next episode, because my next guest strips them all away. If you want to be inspired, I'll see you next time.